Right, so I wanted to come in here and do an update to the Marvel's Avengers character tier list. This is something that I've done every time that there's a new character. I update the tier list, I see where the new characters are, what some shifting around has done. Not quite as in-depth as other YouTubers and other games, because there's not a lot of characters and the game isn't too complex yet. I mean, with like gear and stuff, the game is plenty complex, but it's not like there's not enough end game content or content to grind for like me to go in depth in what characters are good for what, because the variety in end game content is not there yet. So once there is more variety in end game content and more places to grind characters for, then I'll maybe, instead of doing this on Tier Maker, maybe I'll send it over to a Excel spreadsheet, or maybe when more characters are in the game, I'll put it on an Excel spreadsheet, because Tier Maker is good for stuff that doesn't need a lot of dissection, a lot of talking about, but or it's good for stuff that needs a lot of it's good for stuff that you can talk a lot about, but it's not good for stuff when stuff is in subcategories, and there's reasons why people are good, but people are good with certain things, and they're good with this and good with that and whatever, and the game is at a point where certain characters are good with a certain exotic, or good with this, that and the other. What I've done is I've broken down the characters by how good they are with just a base blanket build, without any any super cool exotics or anything, how good they are from a base level standpoint, how good their kit is, and what the main stuff that they can do, like their assaults, their supports, their ultimates and their intrinsics, and just their base combos, how good those are. I'm not looking at exotics, I'm not looking at what they can do with a certain major artifact or a certain minor artifact, or, I'm not looking at gear or anything, I'm looking at the base kit. And this is also my opinion. This is from my experience with the game, my opinion, someone that hasn't, completed all of the endgame content, that characters aren't the best, and that, stuff that I haven't built these characters to be massive powerhouses. I've built these characters to have fun with them, and the massive powerhouse stuff can come when I have a console that can run the raid, Until then, it's all for fun. So we're going to start off with the D tier, the lowest of the low, and this is going to be a controversial one, but I'm putting Thor here. I'm putting Thor in the D tier, and the reason for that is that Thor is an amazing character, and Thor was one of the best characters in the game, but a certain character that's been released recently has kind of taken Thor's spotlight, taken Thor's thunder, if you will. Pun definitely intended. But Thor is now pointless. And that's the thing, what happens when you bring in echo characters and you bring in characters that are, exact same kit but tweaked. They will take what that existing character had and they will run with it. And that's what Jane has done. Jane has taken Thor, smacked him, chucked him on the ground and said, "You go on the bench. I'm here now, you go on the bench." And I can see the only people using Thor now will be people that are just will be people that have been like, right, Thor's my favourite character, I'm not even going to touch Jane, or people that don't like that Jane is Thor out of like a vitriolic standpoint. Those people probably just aren't playing the game anymore out of a sign of rebellion against Marvel's Avengers for putting Jane Foster in the game in the first place. But yeah, Thor is, as it stands, Thor is still very good. Nothing has happened to Thor as a character to make him terrible. He's not technically as bad as any of the characters that I've put in C tier or even B tier, or dare I say even A tier. But he is pointless to build now that there is a character in the game who does exactly the same things, just better. And the tweaks that have been made to Jane have made her infinitely better than Thor. So if you are choosing to play as Thor over Jane, you're missing out on a great character, and you're missing out on the better character, in my opinion. But also, even playing, I'll get to Jane when I get to Jane. I think you can already see where Jane is, but I'll get to Jane when I get to Jane. C tier, I want to talk about Kamala very, very shortly. Her ultimate is the worst in the game. I was going to put her in D tier, but then she has a heal that moves, that isn't like just one thing, or it's not even tracking, it's just a blanket heal that is like, she puts her arm in the air and everyone gets their health back to max, and it revives everyone as well. So she has possibly the best support in the game. You can argue, there is an argument between all of the heals which one is the best. I argue that Spider-Man's is the best, but so her ult is what puts her down here because it makes her a big giant target, and her assault isn't great either because it's the launch forward, and those kind of assaults need to go away. They need to not happen anymore. I swear, if She-Hulk or the next character that comes out, because Brian Wagner doesn't want it to be She-Hulk for some reason. He doesn't like Miller, and he doesn't like that Miller's gotten everything right. So, I swear, if the next character that comes out has like a launch forward or a projectile forward attack as their assault, I will be very passive aggressive in a video about it, and I will rank that character accordingly. So yeah, those kind of assaults are the worst, and sadly they're the most common. But out of everything else, she does everything fine. She doesn't have, her damage isn't anything to write home about. Her healing is so, because it's a blanket heal, but it happens once. It gets everyone to full, and it revives everyone, but it happens once. It's not a heal over time. It's not anything like that. It happens once. It's not like an area where you stand in it and you're healing constantly. So you're basically, even if you're getting attacked, you're never actually losing health. So you're healing back quick enough to negate all of the damage that's being done to you. It's not like that. It's just bam, and then you can get one shot still afterwards. So it's not the best healing. It's great for like low level stuff, but it's not great for anything past that. Next character is Cap. I've talked highly about Cap before, but the more I play him, the more I realise that there's nothing special about Cap. His damage is fine, but his traversal really lets him down, because the raid and even the OLT, they're big parts of those pieces of content. Big parts of most of the content is being able to move around in it, being able to platform, being able to, being able to do all this stuff, and having a character like Cap who can't fly, who can't do a lot of who doesn't have a grapple system or anything, he's not very useful in places like the raid, in any area that's even remotely endgame. He's good in hives, and that's about it. And his taunt, I still don't know what it actually does. I still don't know what his support actually does. His assault is great because it's AoE, and his ult is great as well because it's AoE. But getting him to get to that point is a bit annoying, and getting him to get to the point where he can pop off is annoying. And also, he doesn't have any healing, which, most of the characters in the game have healing now, and have the ability to heal the entire team, not just himself. So I think he gets a little bit of health back. He gets health back from takedowns like every character, and he gets a little bit of health back from just doing his heroics, but it doesn't heal the rest of the team. So you've got a tank that isn't constantly healing, so you've got a tank that isn't very good at being tanky. And then the last character in the C tier, who has gone up a little bit, gone up a few places in the C tier. I think he was in D tier last time I did this, but in the C tier is Spider-Man. Because there isn't, much like Cap, there isn't a place in the game for him. Because he has all of the pieces to be amazing. He has all of the pieces to be great, right? He's got a really good status effect with the webbing. It just doesn't work on bosses. So during that big claw fight, you're going to be dead more times than you're going to be actually, you're going to be dead more than you're going to be alive, and you're going to be relying on people to revive you. So it's weird. He doesn't have enough HP, and he doesn't have enough defense to survive in any of the endgame content, and his damage isn't good enough to negate the fact that he just doesn't, he's got a status that doesn't work on the stuff that you're building him for. And there's no point, and there's no place in the game where he fits really well. There's no, the thing that I've been pushing to make characters like Spider-Man and characters like Cap and characters that, do a lot of damage but aren't great at boss encounters, and that don't have the best platforming and the best traversal, is like a horde mode, or like a raid mode, or like a wave mode, where it's endless, not like the horde mode that's in the game at the moment, which is 3 waves and then you're done, and the rewards are the same as any other threat sector or any other villain sector. So the rewards aren't great, and you're not getting exotics from it either. So it would be great to have something to aim towards that was properly endless. And I feel like Spider-Man and Cap, that would be a place that would bump them up a bit in the tier list, because it's a place for them where it actually works. And maybe you can get to a certain to a certain wave, and like that's what Red Room should be. Like there should be an update to Red Room where it is like an endless wave-based thing. Like that's what the Harm Room should be. The Harm Room should be like, yes, it should be a place to get to learn the new characters that come in, but it also should be a place where, you know, where like it should be turned into like an end game piece of content that's like a challenge that's like a wave-based horde mode. At least that's what Red Room should be anyways. But Spider-Man, until something like that comes, Spider-Man just doesn't do well enough to really justify working on him for any period of time. And every character in this game, working on them and getting them to a point where they can run a raid, where they can run an OLT, and where they can do well in that as well. Not just be able to enter the mission, but to be able to do well and keep up with every other player that's doing it. It's a time sink. It's a really big time sink. So, yeah. Spidey is... I so want him to be better, because he has so many good things about him. But, hey, the whole situation about the web status, and I know there's people that are going to be screaming in the comments saying, put cryo on him. That makes him be able to do the web status on bosses. Yes, that is valid. But, as I said at the start of the video, this is talking about the characters at base level, because getting a exotic or getting a piece of gear with cryo on it is based in luck, right? And I'm not talking about luck today with the tier list. I'm talking about the characters as they come. Kate Bishop is the first in the B tier. I slept on Kate. I mean, I don't mean that in a dirty way. Don't take that out of context. As much as I want to, don't take it out of context. But Kate's actually pretty good. I mean, she gets a few bump ups in the tier list because of, you know, reasons. But also, she's just a good character all round. She can teleport, which is like a decent traversal mechanic. She's, you know, her damage is great. Her damage output is amazing, actually. You know, she's got that upgrade to a warp arrow, which is like basically a black hole that sucks in enemies and then does a massive damage burst at the end, which is different to every other assault in the game. So, bonus points there. And just everything she does works. And everything she does works in a boss fight, and works in a raid, and works in this, works in that. The only problem she has is survivability, but you can work on that. And I think she's one of the only characters that doesn't actually get health back from doing her heroics. So that's something that I got really caught up on in the early game, but when I got her more leveled up, she was doing enough damage to negate that anyway, and she was doing enough damage to the point where when you finished a combo, the boss is already dead, or almost dead. So you don't really need that survivability when you're doing so much damage. The only problem with her, I would say, is that her support is bad. Her support is really bad and doesn't work in most scenarios. And her ultimate is being overshadowed by the rest, I would say, because every other character has like something really unique about about that ult, right? So even Spider-Man, it webs up all of the enemies in the area. Cap, it changes the way he plays. Kamala becomes huge. You know, what does Kate get? She gets a extra bit of range on her. She gets an extra bit of range and she gets a damage bump. Ooh, interesting. Great. You know, how long did it take them to work that out? You would think with the amount of effort that went into her traversal mechanics and into her intrinsic, you could have put some of that into her heroics. You could have put some of that into heroics. Her assault, like I said, is great, but the rest of them are mid, or like very low. But she does enough damage output to kind of negate all of the bad stuff about her. The same can be said about Black Widow. She's got a really good damage output, and if you go strictly into a ranged build with her, then you're laughing, because the rate and speed of damage output for Black Widow, you're laughing. The only problem is survivability, but you can go invisible and people can't see you, and then you don't get hit. But everything else about her kit doesn't really lend itself to survival. Like, her ult just gives her more damage and changes her combo, like Cap's, and gives her a bit more shock. And I'm going to say it right now, her assault is the worst in the game. It's got the worst range on it. And if you get it to hit right, it does amazing damage. It goes gangbusters. But if you don't, you are getting nothing. And you can't do it again for another, 2 or 3 minutes. So you're fucked if you don't hit anything with the assault, which is a small tiny orb of electricity. If you don't hit anyone with that, you're not doing a big burst of damage for another 3 minutes. So, and by that time the boss could be already dead. So yeah, she does that's where she suffers, and that's why she's so far down. If that had more range on it, if Black Widow was buffed to have more range on her assault, then or for her assault to be something different, then she would get a bump up. But as it stands, she's just okay at the moment. Iron Man is in B tier specifically and only because of Hulkbuster, which makes him invincible for a short amount of time, for a very short amount of time, but it is an amount of time, and for how much damage I've seen other Iron Men do, right? And because he can fly, which negates 2 of the bosses and negates most of the raid. And basically means that you have to take Iron Man into the raid. The biggest problem with Iron Man for me is his survivability. When you don't have Hulkbuster popping off, Iron Man is a glass cannon, and most of the time you're getting hit more times than you can hit other enemies. And because of his assault being that beam forward, while you're doing that on one enemy, there's fucking 300 other enemies that are trying to kill you, and are more than likely will succeed. So it's very annoying, and I think when I was doing my my running the Last Avengers standing with every character, Iron Man was the character that I struggled with the most, just because his survivability is so freaking bad. I've talked about survivability with every other character. Iron Man's is the worst. If you can, again, there are probably exotics like Jarvis Barrier that you can put on Iron Man to make his survivability better. But I'm not talking about that, am I? I'm not talking about exotics, I'm talking about base kit. And my experience with Iron Man is that he dies way too easily and way too frequently for me to want to use him. But I can't ignore how good I've seen other Iron Men be, and how in the first few months of playing the game, Iron Man was my main. And Iron Man was the character that I was really invested in, and was the character that was doing the most damage for me and that I was having the most fun with. But it's just now with stuff like the raid and stuff like the OLT and stuff that is doing more damage and demanding more of your characters, Iron Man's falling down, and I feel like, you know, we get a couple more characters, we're going to see Iron Man fall down even further. The only thing that's keeping him in B tier is Hulkbuster and the fact that he can fly. A tier, Black Panther. Black Panther has the same problems as Captain America, but has the advantage of being a new character. So his animations and his kit is that of a 2021 character, not of a 2020 character. So, and it's that of a expansion level character as well. So I misjudged Black Panther when he came out. Initially, I was like, he doesn't really do much for me. And then when I've been grinding him more and more to get his character level up, to grind credits, to get his character card completed, to grind credits for Jane's character card, when I did that, I kind of figured out, wow, Black Panther is legit. He's really good. He's not on the level of, you know, higher characters, but there's only 3 that are higher than him, so he's just missing out on podium position. But his intrinsic is so good, his ranged is so good, his ult is one of the most beautiful animations in the game, and also you can summon like the Dora Milaje. So he's got a summon attached to him, you know, that's there from the start. So yeah, I slept on Black Panther massively when it came out, and you know, he's really good. He's really good now. Hulk is a damage powerhouse, and he's here strictly because the amount of damage that he can put out and the amount of defense that he has and how useful he is. The fact that he's got a heal, high damage and high defense. I know a lot of people early game are like, Hulk's the most difficult character to get behind because of how his intrinsic works, and yeah, his intrinsic is annoying, like having to hold down his intrinsic and to be constantly doing damage to get health back is annoying. But once you get to a point where your defense is so high, then you're never gonna die playing Hulk. Hulk will be basically immortal throughout every piece of content in the game. The only problem with Hulk is that his traversal is kind of scuffed. It's kind of meh, because it's a big jump. It's a big jump. So he, in places like the raid, he's not going to be able to traverse as well, but he'll be doing so much damage that you won't really care. And yeah, Hulk's just, they got him right. They got him right. He feels like playing as Hulk. So yeah, Hulk's up there. He's great. He's legit. The only problem is that if you try and grab a big enemy or a boss, you just won't attack. You just won't do damage. So holding down square. I know this is a thing because I'm an idiot and I've tried it, but you're literally just doing this animation. You're just doing this and you're trying to grab them, but you don't. It doesn't do a different attack on bigger enemies. It just tries to grab them, but it doesn't, and it's annoying. And that's the only thing that I can say about Hulk that isn't why he's in S tier. That and the grinding him early game is annoying, and he's like not got the best traversal. A tier is Hawkeye. You guys know who's in S, but also Hawkeye is still the second best character in the game, and he's still amazing. And you know, the damage output that comes from Bag of Tricks alone, and Bag of Tricks alone, is why he's in A tier. He's also not got the worst traversal in the game. He's got a grapple which helps massively, and yeah, his ranged is amazing. His base damage, his melee damage is really good as well. His assault is great. His ult is great. You can literally just stand still and watch enemies be melted while arrows fly around you. And his support is the worst heal in the game, but it's still a heal. So yeah, you've got that. But also, Bag of Tricks works really well. Bag of Tricks works really well. The only problem I have with Hawkeye is, and it's a UI issue. It's not a problem with the character, or it's that when you get his intrinsic bar fully up and you get the lock on, it fucks up the camera. And that's the only problem that I have with Hawkeye. Outside of that, he is the template that you should use for every character going forward. He is so good. He's so good. And people that are like, Kate is better than Clint. No, you're wrong. You're wrong. Objectively, you are wrong. Because his damage output is just so freaking good. And then we move on to the S tier. And you guys knew who it was from when you saw the thumbnail and everything. But Jane Foster is just insane. And it comes from using a kit that's already the best or second best in the game and translating it and tweaking it a little bit, ever so slightly, and making those tweaks make the character insane, basically. Jane just does so much better than Thor. The range of just her basic abilities is so much better than Thor's. You know, she seems to have like better damage than Thor, so that's a thing. And her ultimate is the best in the game. Her ult is the best in the game. It is that projectile forward, but it's like a big area, and it steals from Hawkeye as well. And Mjolnir's just hitting enemies all over the screen, and you can still do decent damage with Underyarn as well, while Mjolnir is hitting everyone or spinning around you in a vortex, to make her a melee damage powerhouse. And that's something that the game needs more of, and that the game hasn't really been going into that much, is like the melee damage. It's been ranged with every character. And we finally now have a character which is specifically built around being good with both and being flexible because of how her intrinsic works. Her intrinsic is do melee damage to build up the meter, so that your range damage gets better when it's fully maxed out. And it means that you build into a melee to build up the meter, and you build into a ranged when the meter's full to go away. And it means that she doesn't fully rely on her heroics, but the heroics do gangbusters damage anyways. So she's doing amazing damage with her ranged, amazing damage with her melee, and amazing damage with her heroics. And she heals with all of her heroics as well. The only thing she doesn't have, the only thing that can make her better, is like an inbuilt Jarvis barrier, or an inbuilt things that are stuff for exotics. I feel like if you're gonna have a character that's gonna have an inbuilt Jarvis barrier, I feel like that's gonna be either Rescue or War Machine. But my God, they've made a Echo character the best in the game, and they've made an Echo character that is broken. That is just broken. That's what Jane is. She's just broken. I'm not happy about it. I'm not happy about it because I want the best character in the game to be not an Echo. I'm not annoyed that the best character in the game is Jane because she's the most recent. I'm annoyed of the reason why she is the best. And that's kind of meh. It's kind of like, it's like you're basically just playing Thor but buffed, and it doesn't feel earned, and it doesn't feel like a win for CD. It just feels like a minimal effort, maximum satisfaction, or maximum minimum input, maximum output kind of thing, where they just buffed up some stats and changed a few things, but they had mostly the same kit and 2 out of 3 heroics that are exactly the same. And that's why Thor is in D tier and Jane is in S tier. Is that Jane is the same character, but she does everything better. So no one's going to be playing Thor now unless you just really love Thor and you want that nostalgia trip and you really like seeing the Bifrost. That's the only reason you have to play Thor now. It's frustrating when a character comes out and they make another character nigh on useless or nigh on pointless. So yeah, there you go. That's my tier list for Marvel's Avengers in the month of July. Even though Jane came out in June, I'm doing this in July, so whatever. And most players will have Jane leveled up in July. So yeah, Jane is the best character in the game. I'm not happy about it. Let me know in the comments who you would have put in S tier and who you think is still great, and whether you disagree with me, whether you think that people will still be playing Thor even with now a better Thor. Because at least with the 2 Hawkeyes you can make an argument that, that Kate is different enough from Clint that they're still different characters, which that's true. They are different characters. They feel intrinsically different. The only similarity is they both have a bow. You know, everything else about the characters is different. But yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think. If you think this tier list is completely wrong and that Thor is still an S tier, and you think that Hawkeye should still be an S tier, and if you think Miss Marvel should be an S tier, then let me know in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next video. If you enjoyed this one, leave a like, comment, subscribe. Comment over to my Twitch. We're still doing charity streams, raising money for Mind. Anything you can do to support that is greatly appreciated. And anything you can do to support this video is greatly appreciated as well. These tier list videos always do well. They're always the best video of the month. So if you enjoyed this one, leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.